Cotton Fitzsimmons enshrined in the Basketball Hall of Fame. Who could be next from the Phoenix Suns? And some fun with the Suns NBA 2K rankings. All of that coming up on a Monday edition of Locked On Suns.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are back. This is Locked On Phoenix Suns. I'm your host, Brendon Kleen. I cover the Suns in the NBA at Dime Magazine. Done some work at 12 News. I'm a credentialed media member. Most importantly, though, I've been covering this team here in the Valley for 5 seasons now, and coming to you every single day. We're only at 3 a week for only about 2 more weeks, this one and next week, and then training camp, which is crazy, but that is where we are. I'm coming to you here on this Monday episode to talk through the latest news on the Suns, dive into the Hall of Fame a little bit, because we didn't have a Suns representative get enshrined and give a speech and all of that this year after a big class last year, but we did, of course, get Cotton Fitzsimmons being enshrined, and I want to look a little bit into the future because we have some interesting cases coming up in the not too distant future. First, though, anyone who is here, I want to remind you and reiterate to you to subscribe to the Locked On Suns YouTube channel. Maybe you're just a listener right now. Maybe YouTube's not fully your thing. We're going to be having, obviously, all sorts of guests all the way through the upcoming season. Daily content, daily shows, breakout segments. Maybe I'll do an instant reaction. Maybe I'll go live here and there as we make our way through the actual games, which are not too far away. We're at about 300 subscribers. The growth has been incredible. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. The reminder, though, Kelly Oubre Jr., the Tsunami Poppy, he has his leather jacket that says Wave on it. He has the Converse. He has the AirPods in his ears. It could be yours if we get to 1,000 subscribers. It's a big goal, obviously. It's a round number there. I think we can do it by the time the season starts. We have 6 weeks or so. Tell everybody you know. Tell anyone who has a YouTube account that you know, which is everybody. Tell anyone in your life that's a Suns fan, subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Big, big help. But coming to you guys on a big Valley sports weekend, a big sports weekend in general. I was camped out in front of the couch most of the weekend. Got the U.S. Open final, watched both the men's and the women's. Got an awesome Cardinals game today. I wanted to record right after, but I felt like I would talk too much about the Cardinals, and that's obviously not what we're here to do. But I'm riding high off of that win. I'm sure you guys are too. We had Mikal Bridges and Landry Shamet field side. Is that what they call it? Down on the field level during the ASU UNLV game, a blowout win as expected there. So we're just relishing in it here in the Valley this weekend. And the thing I wanted to start with, it's a silly one, but the Suns, well, the whole NBA 2K ratings, NWNBA 2K ratings came out this week, and I'm not here to get all bent out of shape by any means about this at all, but you had Chris Paul and Devin Booker tied. That is the one thing that I actually really do like, is that 2K did not put one of those two over the other. It's a question I get asked all the time. Every time I go on a different podcast or whatever, is who's better? Who do you like better? Who you got? And I think they're basically dead even. I lean a little bit toward Booker just because I think the difficulty level for what he does is a lot higher. But 2K basically came right down the middle. Their 3-point shooting is even. Obviously, Booker has some of the finishing and dunking skills and qualities, but Paul has the passing. So 90s for both of those. You have 86 for DeAndre Ayton, 82 for Mikal Bridges. And that's where things get interesting to me, because you have a 77 tied for Cam Johnson, Jay Crowder, and Dario Saric, which I would venture to guess Cam Johnson was nowhere near a 77 heading into last season. I would imagine he was in the low 70s. I don't remember exactly. Interesting that Saric is still there. I get he's injured. They're not going to dock him for that. What I can't get around, though, is number one, so the next tier is 3 guys tied once again at a 76. Frank Kaminsky, Cameron Payne, and JaVale McGee. Now, all of those, I don't even take issue with them. But it is hilarious to me that you have Frank Kaminsky, who that seems like a very, very high overreaction to or overvaluation of him with a 76, tied with Cameron Payne, who we just saw score 29 points in the conference finals. It seems like they're still not trusting the Cameron Payne experience. I'm not sure what else the guy needs to show. He did it all last season. He did it in the bubble, and he did it in the playoffs. It's been over a year now of this guy proving to us that he is the real deal, getting that contract again and proving himself to be a core part of this team. I'm not sure what else possibly Cameron Payne needs to do to get bumped up, at least to that 77, if not higher. He was the guy immediately that jumped off the page, even when I think he had tweeted that Ronnie 2K last week, and the guys will get their grades a little early if they go on social media and beg. And that felt really low to me then when he tweeted it out. But then JaVale McGee being tied there too, it's like there is no way you can convince me that Cameron Payne and JaVale McGee are even players, evenly matched with Frank Kaminsky. That doesn't make any sense to me. I don't get it. I don't agree with it. And then Landry Shamet is the other one that completely surprised me. 73, which in and of itself, I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and do every single skill category and then add them all up and average it out. And obviously I get how these things are quantified. So it's not so much the number, but I'm just looking at it on a sliding scale. The fact that you have Landry Shamet below Elfrid Payton, below Abdul Nader, below Frank Kaminsky seems very strange to me. I'm not saying Landry Shamet is a world beater, but I would feel confident saying he's a better player than Elfrid Payton. And he's been more consistently available and at least has the one knockdown skill of being a three-point shooter that Nader has not proven as consistently during his career. So very strange to me that Landry Shamet is so undervalued. I guess these are just two drums I'm going to be beating all the way through the preseason. That backcourt off the bench of Payne and Shamet I think is very much a force to be reckoned with, has a lot of upside. I think we're going to see both of those guys benefit from playing with one another, and I feel like we're going to see them just really tap into something that Payne and Carter, even though the bubble was so special, that they didn't always have the size and the experience and the two-way ability to do. So 2K ratings are not the end-all be-all, but it does give us a little bit of insight into sort of the average perspective on a player. And I'm very much seeing an undervalue of Payne and an undervalue of Shamet. And I think that lines up with a lot of what we see and hear about this team. So, again, it is just 2K. I just hope they fix the damn game more so than anything else. I think the Suns are awesome to play in 2K when the shooting controls actually work. NBA 2K21 was garbage until they patched it and everything. But I was already fed up by then. So I honestly did not even play the game as much as I usually do. I like to just put it on and not think and whatever, but the shooting stuff and everything was so trash last year that I couldn't play. I just couldn't get over it. So that's the most important thing, aside from how they grade the Suns out. These gradings get changed in a flash the minute that players actually start playing the games. So that's not so much of a big deal. But it is interesting, Cameron Johnson high up there, and then Payne and Shamet a little bit undervalued. So just some fun. I'm sure you guys caught this as well. It is by no means the biggest news, but I wanted to start there because the rest of the show is going to be all Hall of Fame. So let's get right into that without further ado. First, though, quick word from SweatBlock. Something we all go through, folks. Unnecessary, unwanted sweat and odor, just that moisture that gets on your nerves. Of course, all of my Valley listeners here locally will understand, but anybody, you just have that there, whether it's from the heat or just from nerves. You have a big presentation, you have a first date, you're meeting up with family or friends that you haven't seen in a long time, and you just start to sweat. We don't like to do it, but it's natural. Our bodies do it. SweatBlock cuts that out. It stops that sweat in its tracks. It is a small underarm or wherever you need it. It's a wipe that you apply. Maybe do it before bed. Maybe do it when you first wake up, after you get out of the shower. It applies. It stays there for up to 7 days per use. It's not a one-time application. It gets you there throughout, and it's popular as heck. It's been used as a bestseller on Amazon for the past 10 years. Over 13,000 reviews. This stuff has been tested on firefighters on television before. It is beloved. It is spoken for, and it is effective. It works. So you can wear what you want to wear. You have that little secret to confidence right in your back pocket, that SweatBlock that you just apply to your underarm, apply to wherever that moisture is coming from, and it stops it in its tracks. If you have ever dealt with this, if anyone you ever know has dealt with this, tell them to check out SweatBlock or grab it for yourself. What you're going to do is use the promo code LOCKEDON at sweatblock.com to get 20% off your next order. Re-up, try it for the first time, whatever it is. That's promo code LOCKEDON for 20% off at sweatblock.com, or check these guys out at Amazon and CVS. Today's show is also brought to you by DirecTV. Does this sound familiar? I know it does. You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows. You're watching sports highlights on your phone, and you've got your neighbor's best friend's login just for the good stuff in your hand as well. Well, I don't want to have you deal with that anymore. Get rid of that hassle and find this great way to get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream. Get all the entertainment you love, your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. No more this, that, 3 screens, 4 screens, a phone and an iPad and a TV, nothing. No more juggling remotes. No need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, there is no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Once again, DirecTV Stream, compatible device required. Content varies by package. Okay. Hall of Fame induction ceremony was this weekend in the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame, and we saw Chris Bosh. I think it's safe to say, was the main highlight of the weekend. Coming off of last year's class, which had obviously a number of high profile, Tim Duncan, Kobe Bryant, Kevin Garnett, and this season was a little bit different. But Chris Bosh, especially with everything he went through at the end of his career, it was very, very cool. He has really dedicated a lot of his messaging and discussion about his career to young people, and that was the tone he struck with his speech, and it was very cool. I'm very much a sucker for all of that stuff, guys talking about their careers, getting the opportunity to look back on that stuff. I remember I wrote something over at Fansided back when the Heat announced that they were going to retire Bosh's jersey. Again, it was meaningful because he had that sudden retirement. LeBron and Wade were both still playing. Bosh was going to be this guy who took Miami to, this next chapter, this next era. He had to retire, and the Heat did right by him and retired that number. And I just remember writing, this type of sacrifice that this guy makes to, buckle up and really improve as a defender, space the floor, change your game offensively, all in the name of winning is such a special thing. And it's cool that he was able to sort of say that and talk about the work ethic that went into crafting a championship career. Chris Bosh is undoubtedly a Hall of Famer. I do not want to hear arguments otherwise. But on the Suns note, we did have Cotton Fitzsimmons as well. Obviously passed away in 2004, but was finally inducted this year. And anybody who is a Suns fan understands, what he meant to the game. He was NBA Coach of the Year 2 times. He coached the Suns 3 different times. The last one in the obviously late 90s, which was very bizarre, or early 2000s, that stretched around the turn of the century, which was unexpected and very short-lived, but one of the pioneering members of this franchise and somebody who's in the Ring of Honor, of course, already, and is undoubtedly a humongous part of everything that this franchise has become. So I just wanted to read a couple of quotes because, to me I was thinking a lot about that period's players because, of course, there's the influence on Paul Westphal. There is the, influence as far as getting the Suns to, building the early part of what would become a championship team in 1976, a team in 1976. They, coming off of the creation of the franchise in 68, all that stuff. But I really feel like for a coach in their Hall of Fame moment, is their players. And the Suns were cool enough to put together a graphic. And so I wanted to read from Kevin Johnson and Eddie Johnson. So KJ said, Cotton was as authentic as they come, and his positive, upbeat approach to basketball and life should be a blueprint for all to follow. EJ said he was prepared, raw, and funny in the locker room. His bonds were created because he laid out your job description and reminded you constantly what it was. Coaching is so interesting to me. I I work at a place at the Global Sport Institute at ASU where we're constantly looking at coaching. We do a lot of research on who gets these jobs. What is the race and gender of people at the coaching level, the manager level, the athletic director level. And maybe that doesn't interest everybody, but it's very interesting to me working there and everything else, but especially because it's such an intangible thing. It's so hard and bizarre, frankly, to try to frame what makes an awesome coach. It's not the same for everybody, and that's the real answer. What works for one person as a coach works for them because of who they are and who their players are. What works for them may not work elsewhere. May not work in the community that they're in. Maybe it won't work based on the predecessor that they're replacing. If you're, so I guess you could use this example: Paul Westphal replacing Cotton, and then obviously vice versa right after the fact when Cotton came back. It's like, that all is context for what ends up being effective. But in this particular case, it was striking how similar those quotes were and things that we have heard said about Cotton forever to what people say about Monty Williams. It's the ability to relate to the players, the ability to get them to go do their best for him. And that, at the end of the day, that's sort of what you would say about a lot of coaches in any sport. But I think there is something unique about basketball. It is such a small team. It is such a sport and game that is predicated upon collaboration and teamwork and buy-in and sacrifice that a basketball coach especially is just somebody that has to their core, get the most out of the people before anything else. You can have X's and O's. You need that stuff to win. The NBA, especially in 2021, is so modern, so spread out, so I said modern as if that's not the literal definition of something being present day, but it is modern in that it is similar to how other sports all around the landscape are being played. Spread out, versatile, interchangeable pieces, et cetera, et cetera. You need that. And obviously Cotton had to have that to get the Suns where they ultimately went and develop his players the way that he did. But I just think it's even more important. It's important for a coach. It's important for the leaders on a basketball team too. But for a coach to because we see all the time that one player having one great player does not make enough of a difference to get somebody over the hump, right? You can't have the best player ever and a bunch of scrubs. It's not going to work. Even those guys, to get to that point, have to learn to sacrifice. They have to be taught. They have to be molded, and coaches are the ones who do that. So I was thinking a lot about the comparison, the contrast between Cotton and Monty. I was thinking a lot about, what does it mean to be a great basketball coach? I was thinking a lot about what it meant to instill that sense of identity to this franchise at its very, very beginnings. Obviously, he takes over from Jerry Colangelo, who goes into just being the general manager and everything else. And those guys would have such a close relationship. Westphal would have such a close relationship. And those sort of three guys especially played such an integral role in defining what we all now come to know as Suns basketball. And for Monty to be the one to kind of pick up that baton feels so natural. Talked about this a lot when Westy passed away earlier this year. But it's true, and it is so interesting how a team can get an identity that lasts even through today with such different faces. So very big tribute, obviously, getting into the Hall of Fame. Of course, you wish it could have happened before he passed, but the Hall of Fame doing the right thing here, getting him in there as just a foundational part of the franchise, of the NBA, more so than even anything else. A two-time coach of the year, just a special person who came up at a time when the league needed people who galvanized their players and made the league something worth rooting for. So very big tip of the hat. I want to talk next about who else on the Suns could be headed there, because it is a very interesting conversation. We had Steve Nash, of course. We've had some other guys over the years, but it's an interesting conversation about who might be the next one. So we'll get into that in just 1 second. First, though, a quick word from Rock Auto. The ever-increasing numbers of makes and models. It is incredibly difficult to walk into a chain store and know that you are going to get what you need at the price that it is supposed to be sold to you for. It's pretty much impossible. Rock Auto solves that problem. They are an online retailer. They've been serving auto parts customers on the internet for over 20 years. Do-it-yourselfers just like me, just like you, not the professionals. You're not going to be ordering in bulk. You're not going to have any sort of license or anything to get a discount at these places. You just got to be able to walk in and know that you're getting what you need. You can't do that at a store. You can't do that at a dealership, of course. So Rock Auto gets out there and they cut out the middleman. They get you what you need. Quick, easy, cheap. That's all that you really need. Again, no subscription at all, no account even. You just log on to Rock Auto, type in the car that you have, scroll down the part that you need, click purchase, and it's at your door in days. It really is that easy. They cut out the hassle. They cut out the middleman. They just get you that part so your car can just be fixed as soon as possible. That is it. That's the most important thing. It's not about getting the fanciest, getting the one that so-and-so told you to get. It's about getting the part that's going to fix the car in the cheapest and the lowest amount of steps. So Rock Auto does that and more. Go to rockauto.com right now, see all the parts available for your car or truck, and write Locked On in there. How did you hear about us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, and all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. So Cotton Fitzsimmons gets into the Naismith Basketball Memorial Hall of Fame. I don't see somebody in the near future who is a lock to get in from the Suns franchise. So Kevin Pelton did a nice little article writing up who is sort of upcoming here. Newly eligible in 2022, you're going to have Monty Ginobili, Joe Johnson. Newly eligible in 2023, you have Dirk Nowitzki, Dwayne Wade, Tony Parker. I would think all 5 of those players will be Hall of Famers, probably on their first chance. And then in 2024, you have Vince Carter. Now, Kevin Pelton makes a smart observation that because no other real major contenders here ended up retiring in 2019, or that was the last season that they played, that Carter's even more likely. If he's the best player in that class, then it's even more likely that he gets in right away. So he, of course, has connection to the Suns. He played here for a season, but that's not very fun. So where I really want to look is I'm going to pick up the thread of the last segment by saying that Paul Westphal, to me, has to be in the Naismith Hall of Fame. He obviously made a finals as a coach, made a finals as a player, and did not ever get that title, but is a lifer in this game, was an assistant coach as recently as last decade. This is not a guy who faded into the sunset and we never heard from him. He was hugely involved in basketball, hugely involved in this community, in this franchise. If you're talking about Cotton Fitzsimmons, people like that, you have to make room for Paul Westphal. So he obviously has been eligible. Coaches, things like that, that gets a little bit dicey sometimes. They have to sort of supersede the voters and just put them in there as an honorary, recognition. There is an ability to vote for them. Maybe there is a renewed sense of purpose for that now that he has passed away. But that's the obvious one. The other place that I want to go, and Kevin Pelton does it in the piece as well, is back to the 7 seconds or less days. Because Stoudemire won't be eligible until 2024, Murray Stoudemire, because he went to go play in China and Israel after the Suns sort of shanked him by not getting him back. I still maintain there's no reason that they should not have brought him back the year that they brought Barbosa back and everything else. It is what it is, but he's not going to be eligible for a few more years. Shawn Marion, on the other hand, is eligible. He retired in 2015, so he has been eligible now for 2 cycles, if I'm not mistaken. And I think he should easily be there. He obviously went out and got his title with the Mavericks in 2011. He is in the top 20 in career steals in the NBA. He had, a number of seasons where he was all-NBA caliber player. He made the All-Star team 4 times. He had this second act where he was able to, go to Dallas and go to Cleveland and be a role player, go to Miami even where he was a little bit more of a role player. He just was consistently a high-level player for a very, very long time. Like, at the end of the day, I think that can be all that needs to be said about somebody. He went to a UNLV program in its heyday in the 90s. If that matters, it doesn't really matter to me. I think he can get in on his merits. But for that team, with how much it means to modern day basketball, I don't think you can overdo it with the 7 seconds or less teams being recognized in the Basketball Hall of Fame. We obviously already have Nash there. I think you have to have Marion, Stoudemire, and Mike D'Antoni, who is undoubtedly going to end up there. I mean, we could even go so far as Steve Kerr is clearly going to be a Hall of Famer because of his job as a coach with Golden State. Rick Welts, I believe, has already been put into the Hall of Fame. I guess he just retired officially from his COO duties in Golden State, so I would imagine he will get there as just an integral member to growing the league and multiple franchises. So that you can't overdo it. I mean, if you want, because we do all of this talk about, those teams are not appreciated enough. We need to honor them. We need to sort of like make sure their legacy doesn't go anywhere. Yes, the legacy plays out every single night on an NBA court because of how much they change the game. But the best way to do that is to honor them with these things. They may just seem superficial, but we know this is how people learn about stuff. This is how people learn about basketball. This is how, legacy and history and everything is written, are these types of accolades, Hall of Fame, MVP. These are the stories we tell about the sport. And if we want to tell the right story about the sport, you have to honor the 7 seconds or less Suns, especially because they never were able to get over that hump. They will get lost to history if we do not tell those stories. The Suns are not doing right by Shawn Marion and putting him in the Ring of Honor. So the least that the Basketball Hall of Fame could do is beat the Suns to the damn punch and get him in there. He has been perennially underrated. He has been perennially had this chip on his shoulder, but he's one of the most fun players. He single-handedly got me into basketball, got me into the NBA, that crooked shot, that delightful defensive intensity. One of the most unique players ever to play basketball, one of the foundational members of this franchise, somebody who played minutes on minutes on minutes in his peak, and you never heard a complaint about any of it, defended every sort of player, did every sort of thing you could want from him on the court, had a cool nickname in the Matrix. This is just one of the best stories and people and performances in the NBA during his era. You just can't not get him in there. So that's my plea. I think Amari Stoudemire will clearly have his case. I think it'll be less controversial even though he never got his title, to just, the points, the scoring. He played for the Knicks and had that sort of second act there. I think he will get in. I think D'Antoni's a lock, but we got to get Marion in here. Basketball Reference has him as a 76% chance to get in. From the bottom of my heart, from my mouth to your ears, make it happen. If any Hall of Fame voters happen to listen to Locked On Suns, I don't think so, but would love to see him in there. I think we all would. So Ring of Honor, Hall of Fame, let's get it done. Do it before the end of the decade. Do it before 2025. Do it tomorrow. Let's get him in there. And that's my plea. Westphal, Marion, we got to keep getting these Suns in there. There are so many great stories to tell from this franchise. We're entering another cool era, but we can't forget the past. So Cotton Fitzsimmons, very, very big tip of the hat to you. Never forgotten. You are in the Ring of Honor, so Suns fans get to see you every time they come into the Footprint Center. But let's keep it rolling. That'll be it. Look, little walk down memory lane there, a little nostalgia trip. Brandon, as you can tell, did not join me today. We're doing it without him this week. Hoping to have guests the rest of the week. I'm hoping to line up Jake Fisher of Bleacher Report to talk about Ryan McDonough, to talk about Jalen Smith. He's done a lot of excellent reporting on the Suns, wrote a big book that included some stories about the Suns from the tanking era. So we'll hopefully get him on. And then Alex Clancy to close out the week. He is the co-host of Locked On Cardinals. I want to argue with him about Chris Paul a little bit first, because he had some truly I'm not gonna lie, the takes just frustrated me, and I was losing my temper on Twitter a little bit with him. So we're gonna go back and forth on that, and then I just want to talk Cardinals. I want to talk about the vibe in the Valley as a sports fan right now, all that type of stuff. So we'll hopefully get him on Friday to close out the week. Again, just 3 shows this week, 1 or 2 more weeks here of that, and I appreciate you all bearing with me. I'm resting. I'm trying to recuperate, get the everything back in order as we get ready for another fun season. So that'll wrap us up for today. Hopefully the weekend was great for all of you. Enjoy the beginning of the work week, and I will talk to you soon.